Today we're going to talk a little cello anatomy and bow anatomy so that when we get started playing the cello, nothing catches us by surprise. So let's just go by topic. So when we sit down to play the cello, what do we hear about? People talk about the end pin, they talk about the ribs sometimes. So let's get to that. The side of the cello, both of these pieces of wood are called the ribs. And why you would talk about it is because your left leg will develop sort of a relationship with the left side of the ribs here, and you kind of eventually find a place that's always going to meet a certain part of your leg as you sit and get comfortable with the cello. So that's what the ribs are. The end pin is here at the bottom, and it's got a fastener here so you can loosen this up and you can pull it in or out to whatever height suits you. And there's no golden rule about how long the end pin should be or what angle the cello should be. It's really on everyone, each person, to kind of decide what's best for his or her body. So here's the end pin, and that pretty much covers it for when we sit down. Okay, so we sit down and now we're going to tune. So what are we going to touch and modify while we're tuning? Well, we have two sets of tuners on the cello. The first are the pegs here. These are used for big time tuning situations. If your string is way out of tune, you come back here and you adjust using the tuner, the pegs rather. I have a posture peg here, which is why you only see three. So there's no magic going on. There's just a posture peg. And then down here, these four screws are called fine tuners. They're attached to, this is the tailpiece. They're attached to the tailpiece, and you turn them righty-tighty to make the pitch go up, sharp, and lefty-loosey to make the pitch go flat or down. For day-to-day tuning, I strongly suggest using the fine tuners. Pegs can be very tricky. They slip sometimes because there's no glue connecting these to the wood. It's just wedged in there. So I would say, as much as possible, use the fine tuners, make your adjustments, and now you're tuned up. Now we'll talk about the left hand, and when we play notes with the left hand, what are we going to be dealing with? So when people say, they talk about the neck of the cello, have a good contact point with your thumb on the neck, they're talking about this right here. This piece of wood is the neck. It's behind the fingerboard, which is this piece of ebony. So the way it works, basically, if you play the open string, the entire length of the string vibrates, and that's the pitch you get. When we put a finger down, what we're doing, we're stopping the string. Sometimes you'll actually hear it called stopped notes. You're actually stopping the string at this point. You're pinching it, and then the string length, as far as the instrument's concerned, the string length is now only this long. And so it's a much shorter string, and so it vibrates at a faster frequency, which means it's a higher pitch. So that's basically, when we play notes, that's kind of like the science about how pitches are being created with the left hand. As we put the finger down, we create a new string length, you play the note. Pretty simple. The last part of this, we've covered left hand, we've covered sitting and tuning, is bowing. So for that, we're going to look here towards the middle of the cello. These are called the C-bouts. And part of the design for the C-bout is so that when you move the bow across, I'll get my bow actually. If we have the bow, it's going to fit in the C-bouts. While we're here, these are called the F-holes. They're called that, I'm pretty sure, just because it looks like the letter F. Without these, there would be almost no sound coming out of the cello. The instrument vibrates internally inside the box as you play the string, play your notes, and then it projects out through the F-hole, so they're very important. Few last things before we get to the bow anatomy. This is called the front of the cello. It's usually made out of spruce, a softer wood. We talked about this. This is the ribs. This is the back of the cello. So we talked about bowing on the cello. That brings up the bow in general. So I'm going to name the major parts of the bow just so we know what they're called. This metal piece at the back here where our hand goes, this is called the button. The long piece of wood, the major part of the bow, is called the stick. This is at the end here is called the tip of the bow. And then here we have the frog. And you might ask why it's called the frog. A lot of people ask that. I've been told that it's because it reminded, when people first made it, it looked a lot like this piece of horse riding equipment that was already called the frog. So they just called it the frog. It looks nothing like a real frog. So that's what I have for you. And then this circle and this little decorative piece here, this is called the eye of the frog, and there's usually one on either side of the bow. And then this metal piece at the bottom of the frog is called the ferrule. Okay, and then there's usually a mother of pearl inlay, and that actually facilitates when you need to get your bow re-haired. That's one of the ways they can access kind of inside the frog to do those kind of things. What would a bow description be without the hair? The hair of the bow is actual horse hair, and it is what kind of creates the sound when you use the bow on the instrument. So what you do is you take rosin, which is basically tree sap. You apply rosin onto the hair to make it sticky and grippy, and then the hair catches the string and releases it, and that's how you get your sound. So that's what the hair is. For practical purposes, when the hairs break or they get old, we don't throw the bow out, we just get it re-haired. So these bows have been designed to be to have the hair replaceable. So you take it to your local violin shop, they give you a brand new set of hair, and you're good to go. So when you're first learning to play and hold the bow, they will say, first thing you do, you tighten the bow before you play. What does that mean? So you go to the button here at the bottom, and you'll twist it righty-tighty to tighten the hair, lefty-loosey to loosen the hair. You always want to store the bow with loose hair. Don't leave it tight and put it in the case. And then they'll say, play at the frog. What does that mean? So that means when you're playing, we remember where the frog is. Play at the frog means stay in this bottom third of the bow. So that's playing at the frog. When they say play at the tip, now we know where the tip is. That means basically stay out here. And they say play in the middle. That's the middle of the stick. I also have a video on bow holds and how to hold the bow, but let me just explain the equipment in terms of how I hold the bow. So when I hold it, for example, my second finger, my middle finger, is going to touch the ferrule, which we talked about. That's where it contacts the bow. And my first finger is going to sit on the leather, which you're going to say that's rubber. You're right. That's a rubber guard I have on top to make my bow more comfortable to hold. But underneath that is what they call the leather, and it's a small piece of leather right here. And so my first finger is going to be on the leather. My second finger is going to be on the ferrule. And then some people have an idea that they'll say put your pinky on the eye of the frog, which we've talked about, the eye right here. I don't do that, but just so you know, if they say put your pinky on the eye of the frog, they're talking about that right there. That pretty much sums it up. If you have any questions at all, please let me know in the comments below. I hope it helps, and good luck. Hi, today we're gonna just